Okay, let's practice a little bit of comparing dataset distributions. So we'll start out with some example data, and then we'll make some comparisons. So let's look at a situation. This is about the number of points scored by two basketball teams in the last several games. Here's Team A. So in 3 of the games, they scored 65 points. In 3, they scored 66, etc. And here's Team B. With 2 times, they scored 66 points. 3 times, they scored 67 points, etc. Okay, so now let's start making some comparisons here. First of all, which team scores more points? Well, just visually you can see that Team B seems to be a little bit higher than Team A. So the answer to that question is Team B tends to score more points. Now, another good question is, do the data sets overlap? So making sure that the scale is the same, so 62 is lining up here, 72 is lining up here. So just visually we can see that yes, the data do overlap. So it's not as if Team A is way down here and Team B is way up here. There's definitely some overlap as far as where the teams tend to score points. So the answer here is yes. So even though Team B generally scores more points, it is possible for Team A to score more than Team B from the data that they've how they scored historically. Now let's put in a little bit more information about each. What we've done is we've put the mean and the mean absolute deviation here for both of the data sets. So let's observe a little bit more here. Which team has the greater mean? Now remember, that's the measure of center. And what is the difference in the means? So if you look at this, okay, Team A has 66.5. Team B has 68.1. That makes sense because remember we said that Team B kind of scores more points. You think the center of Team B's data would be a little bit higher than the center of Team A's. So, and then you could take the difference. Let's see, 68.1 minus 66.5, a little mental math, that's I think 1.6. So let's go ahead and put an answer here. Team B's mean is 1.6 greater than Team A's. Now, a really good question that you might be thinking right now is, well, how much of a big deal is that? Is that a lot more or not very much more than Team A's? Because this could really help us in understanding when Team A plays against Team B, we could try to predict which team is going to win. So hold on to that question, but first let's look at the mean absolute deviations. Which team has the greater MAD, the mean absolute deviation, which remember is a measure of variability, how spread out the data are. Well, really interesting that the MAD for both of them is 1. So, and that makes sense because Team B is this spread out. Team A looks about the same amount spread out. So they have the same MAD, so we can go ahead and write that. The teams have the same variability. And now we get to that question. To determine how significant the difference in means is, you can calculate the ratio of that difference to the MAD. So, for instance, when we say that Team B's mean is 1.6 greater than Team A's, if that's a huge amount of the mean absolute deviation number when compared to the mean absolute deviation number, then that would be really meaningful. If it was really small compared to the mean absolute deviation number, in other words, the amount spread out was pretty similar to the actual difference in the means, then it's going to be less significant. And in this case, when we actually do the calculation here, we do a ratio, the difference in the means to the MAD. Remember, a ratio is like a fraction. Then we take that difference in the means, 1.6, and we put it over the MAD, which is 1, and then we can just simplify that to 1.6. We don't really know from just one example here if that's a big difference or a small difference, but using this ratio can help us to understand if the difference in means is really meaningful. Once you look at several different data sets about basketball teams, you'd be able to determine if the difference in the means of 1.6 was really something to pay attention to when you were predicting which team will win when they play against one another.